Good evening, everyone. And this is Andrew LeDuc, aka Mr. Mallard, and welcome into Divots and Pivots. It's Tuesday night here, as always, here on that Sports Podcast Network. So Bud ran solo last week. I was on vacation with the family, a well-needed rest and relaxation with all the kids. Bud's off this week. He's traveling for work, I believe it was. He's in the middle of nowhere in Vermont right now, so good for Bud. Get that hard work done. So I'll be riding solo tonight. We might have a special guest join us later if he's able to make it. So we'll see. But until then, you got me. As my camera goes out, I think it's going to keep doing that. Has not allowed that to happen. So be on the lookout for that. It's a struggle out here with that. And the first news that I have is more of a personal news here. If you're in the area of Massachusetts, Southern New Hampshire, where there's Market Basket around, if you're familiar with Market Basket, grocery store, um, this right here, I think they're trying to get rid of this brand. Not even the brand is red wine. They must have just been trying to get rid of it. 3 bottles for $12. Yes, I know. Cheap wine isn't usually good wine. I'm not saying this wine is fantastic, but it ain't bad. I know people talk about $4 Chuck at Trader Joe's. Market Basket's version right here. They don't make it themselves. They were just trying to get rid of it, but still stocked up and hit that one. So if you're in the area, go check it out. If you can find some Redwood Highway Cabernet. Now, your boy here, I played golf this weekend. I played on Saturday. Was able to get out nice early tee time with the sun. I got out around 7. So you get a feel for how you're swinging, but you obviously not tracking an accurate score of yourself. But early in the morning, but 18 holes took, oh god, I think I was out there I didn't get home for like 6 hours. I think by the time I hit the course and by the time I went 2 over through the first 4 holes, which is good for me. And then the wheels fell off a little bit. I'll say that. I was playing better than I usually do. Got in my head a little bit through the middle of the round, had some bad holes in a row, but then rounded it back out. Final 5 holes of the 18. I was able to get out there and play the final 5 even par. So I had 3 pars, a birdie, and a bogey. So that felt good. And that's what I took out of it is that yeah, I had some rough patches in the middle. I had 2 8s and a 7 on the day. So that did happen. I can't ignore that happened. But as a whole, it just felt good to be swinging the clubs somewhat consistently. Get out there, practice. I'm not going to tournaments like Bud does. I am still nowhere near Bud's level, but I like to play for the fun of it. I apologize, a little tickle in my throat since because he's on live trying to qualify for the Open Championship and misqualifying and had some words about that, but it was the first time he'd missed in I forget how many years, but a long time. A total 3 under. I think he needed to be 500 to get in the top 4 to get a spot in the Open. But the big news out of this was that and everyone's calling it that saying that he threw a hissy fit, and I get it because that's how Sergio expresses himself. So he yells at people, he gets loud, and he did. He said some things. He said in reference to the RNA, the governing board. Um, you're always right, we're always wrong. It's just how it is. Something like a teenager would say to their parents, basically. Uh, but what he was referring to is just a warning, but apparently he's, I guess, blaming his golf game not living up to be able to even this warning somehow. I don't know how it really personally, but out of the way for the shot, which I get. If that's the case, I think it's a situation where the governing board, they analyze what's going on once they kind of the situation. Okay, you gave him at it for 10 minutes trying to figure out if they're going to go left or right. Um, if there's people in the way, gonna you know bitch and moan like he always does. He's gonna miss, and he's not going to be playing in the Open Championship. Um, and that's that. Sergio once again has to kind of lay in his bed after going to live, and I think a lot of guys are starting to settle with that. They'll still mention things. They'll still talk about it here and there about how they miss playing in these tournaments, how they think it would be better for golf if they did. To an extent, maybe a couple of them, yes. But I'm sorry, I'm not going to miss Sergio Garcia at the Open Championship this year. I think there's enough young guys across the world. Forget even just the guys on the PGA Tour. Young guys across the world, DP World Tour, and all that. There's enough young talent that I'm excited about watching as well. That I don't need to see Sergio Garcia go out there again. I'm done with Sergio. Like Sergio's purpose now is to give us entertainment, bitching and moaning about being given a warning for playing too slow. So just know, I guess I'm done with Sergio. I don't really want to hear it. But one of those young guys that is kind of enjoying some kind of celebrityness, I guess you can say right now, is Mr. Neil Shipley. If you remember him from the Masters, low amateur at the Masters, he's the guy who was looking off kind of stunned when he was being interviewed after the round, um, wanting to make sure he didn't say something wrong. He went again and got low amateur at the U.S. Open as well. He turned pro after that, and if you missed it this past week at Rocket Mortgage, he went out and got a T20. He's played good all weekend. He wasn't happy with the way he finished. I believe he finished par, bogey par, or bogey par, bogey, something like that. But either way, he finished with a final round of 72, but he still got a T20. Shipley's looking great right now, and he even went and got to throw at a first pitch in Chicago the other night. So Neil Shipley is a budding celebrity, and it's guys like that these are the stories that like we get excited to hear these new stories of guys coming to their own into golf and the successes they can have. So Neil Shipley, I'm here for you. I'm excited to watch you more. um so that's going to be awesome. uh Sorry, it sounded like a doorbell. Richard Bland wins the U.S. Senior Open as well after a rain delay. Stunted that tournament. They finished it up yesterday on Monday. So Richard Bland wins the U.S. Senior Open. So good for him. Always another name that is easy to root for in the golf world. So congratulations, Richard Bland. And then the other big news this week, the John Deere Classic. So obviously on this show, if you're familiar with it, jokes of like, oh, it's just the so that's on the line this week. John Deere, well, someone will qualify for the Open Championship this coming weekend at the John Deere, and someone who will not be in attendance anymore at John Deere is Patrick Cantlay. He withdrew to injury today. He was actually scheduled to have a press conference tomorrow after the pro-am, but he actually withdrew today ahead of that. So I actually don't expect to hear from him. It's an undisclosed injury. I wasn't able to find anything on what it is. He just says it's an injury that his team is telling him to just be precautious with, in hopes to be ready for the Scottish Open next week, and then obviously the Open Championship after that. So the news here, though, is that Cantlay was, I believe, 9-1, the odds-on favorite to win the tournament this weekend. So if you're betting winners, top 10s, top 5s, top 20s, whatever, if you're doing anything other than DFS when it comes to betting, Patrick Cantlay off the card now. That opens the door. Some of your other guys, some of your other guys who now are favorites, which is your betting favorites. All three of them equal odds. So there's value. Hell, we just talked about Neil Shipley. I forget. Let me see if I can pull up his odds here. Let's see here. If I can pull up Neil Shipley's actual betting odds. He someone like him, though, I'd be happy trying to finish this week, because I think it's that type of field that if you're a lesser known golfer or a younger golfer and you're just playing hot, which Neil Shipley is playing good right now, this could be a week for you to make a little noise and catch some eyes on yourself. So let's see betting odds. John Deere. Here we go. He is. So the guys I said are now the favorites. So Neil Shipley to win is plus 11,000 on FanDuel. So here's what top 30 though for Neil Shipley, plus 180. Why not throw a little bit on that? You're not gonna break the bank and win a ton, but Neil Shipley for a top 30 at the John Deere, I think, is a gettable course for a guy playing well. I like that. I like the top 30 to win. I don't think he's gonna win. I don't think he's quite there. I think some work still needs to be done, but there's nothing. It's not like it's a bad thing for me to be saying that about him. I'm not knocking him at all. I just think he's only been pro for a short time now, so I think there's a natural progression here. But top 30, top 20, if you can get those odds. So if top 30 is 180, I could see top 20 being around like 350, plus 350. Yeah, I'd be all over that. Let's see here. I got some other odds here too. So Sungjae Im, it looks like he's now plus 1,500 to win. Spieth is now plus 2,200 actually. So the odds have shifted a little bit. So yeah, check it out. But there's going to be value this week. We'll stick to DraftKings right now. There's going to be value in DraftKings. It's one of those tournaments again where someone can come out of nowhere. Like, yes, there are some names. We have Jordan Spieth, Sepp Straka, Sungjae Im, Aaron Rai, who's also hot, who was part of that mix this past week at the Rocket Mortgage. But then there's a lot of guys who have had their moments and then disappeared, like your Nick Dunlaps. Let's see, like Jason Day, who just can't seem to stick around long enough to do anything at the moment. Eric Cole, who's been hot at times. These guys are all in the field and just kind of hanging around at lower prices. Eric Cole, for instance, 8,500. We'll get more into pricing and ownership and all that in a little bit here. But there's a ton of value in this field, and some guys who are going to be hungry to try to get that last spot, one of those last spots, at the Open Championship in 2 weeks. So, yeah, we're looking forward to that. It's the last tournament for a couple weeks here on American soil before they head over across the pond. Like I said, Scottish Open is next week, so that'll be a nice kind of warm up tournament for the Open Championship. And that's the other thing when it comes to the Open Championship I saw today. I think this is what we're going to hear consistently out of Tiger Woods entering these major championships at this point. I did say it before that if Tiger's going to win another major, his best chances are going to be at either the Masters or the Open Championship. I don't see him winning another U.S. Open. I don't see him winning a PGA Championship. I just don't think those tournaments are set up in a way that plays towards the physical struggles he does have in his game now. But something like the Open Championship and the Masters is something where I think he can still compete. So, but he came out today. He said that with where his body's at right now, he flat out said he feels like he can win the Open Championship. Now, we've seen this before over the past couple of years. It's the mindset that he wants to enter the weekend. He has said it before over the years that he's not going to play a tournament if he doesn't think he has a chance to win it. He enters every tournament with the expectation and kind of understanding that he has a legitimate chance to be in contention to win this tournament. So the fact that he's going to play it, the fact that he's saying that he thinks he has a chance to win, it just doesn't surprise me. I know a lot of people are going to, get all excited saying that Tiger thinks he can win again. We've got to watch. He's not even doing it to try to hype up the tournament. This is just what he's going to say. This is what he's going to do for himself. And like I said, the Open Championship is one that I think he could. He seemed to be swinging the club pretty decent last time we saw him out. So I'll be curious to see how he does once we get 2 weeks from now, once we get to the Open Championship. But just figured we'd throw in some Tiger remarks as well. Let's real fast get an early commercial break here. We're going to hear from Jazz Casino. And then when we come back, we'll kind of start breaking down the course for the John Deere Classic. And then we'll get into some fantasy picks. So stick around. We'll be right back.
Jazz, Sportsbook, Casino, and Racebook, the world's best resource for all-purpose online wagering. For over 20 years, Jazz has provided the best and quickest payouts in sports and entertainment wagers. Live sports betting, covering all the major sports leagues, and even into the new and exciting world of esports. Down the stretch you'll come, with Jazz's online horse wagering. Get paid when you play with Jazz's fun and exciting online casino games. Go online now and use the promo code TSS for our new members deals. Jazz Sportsbook, Casino, and Racebook, the world's best resource for online wagering.
Real fast, don't forget, and actually, it's not up. How to not have that up? Do you see at the bottom here? Use discount code TBFY15 at your purchase. Coming out with some new. He just came out with some new pattern drops. I'm sure there'll be more in the future here. So get over there, check it out, get your order in, and save some money with using TBFY15. Over there. And then as always, if you want to email the show, divotsandpivots@gmail.com. I know a real hard one to remember. Email us, we'll answer you. We'll get your comment up here on the show. Jump in the comments on YouTube, on Twitter. And if you're watching us on YouTube, please like and subscribe on That Sports Podcast Network. It helps the network grow, helps us know that you like helps us know you like what we're doing, so that we can continue to grow. And look, it just helps us. So like and subscribe if you can. Well, let's get into it. I was just actually reminded about part of my golf outing on Saturday that when it came to the pace of play, so I approached it with, I was out there, it was a nice morning round, and I had nothing else to do for the rest of the day. So I didn't really care how long it took, honestly. Like, yeah, I was aware how slow it was going, but it's not like I was getting mad out there or anything like that. So I was fine with it. What am I going to do? I'm just chilling in the nice breeze and the sun, just waiting to take my shots. Like, that's fine. I'm not out there trying to win a tournament where the pace of play is affecting my rhythm and all that. But the guys I was playing with, the group behind me, they were not too happy. They were threatening to hit into the guys in front of us who were taking a while, all that jazz. That's not my style. I just prefer to be on the course, quieter and reserved and hanging out. But there was one thing in the group in front of us, though, that caught my attention. One, it's fine. If you're playing slow, it's fine. Like, just be aware of it and don't rush and stop enjoying your round. But just be aware, for one thing. don't be all waiting for each other to hit their shots, and like it's ready golf. Just play ready golf. But this one guy in the group, if he just missed a shot, you would have thought he thought he was on Pro Tour or something. I saw him throw his club no less than 4 times, including on the green when he missed a putt. I saw it from standing up on the tee box in a par 3. I saw him launch the putter straight up in the air and let it fall, land right on the green. That's the type of shit that don't bring that to the course. I wasn't about to go say anything to him. Like, it's just whatever. I'm just going to hang back and play my game. I'm not about to ruin my day because this guy can't hold his emotions together and doesn't know how to respect things. But don't do that shit. Like, that's people out there work hard to get those greens and those fairways and all that ground nice. It's often the first thing that the same people who are going to be throwing the clubs, if you go out to a course that is having a rougher day with bald spots on the green or whatever, rough conditions, those are also going to be the first people that bitch and complain about that, yet they don't respect it and they tear it up themselves. So just don't be that guy or girl on the course. Respect the course, because I know the 2 guys that I was playing with, they let it affect their game. They let it affect their day. They were pissed. They were yelling. They were like, you could tell they were just heated. It affected their game, and I wasn't going to let it do that. I didn't want it. I wanted to see how well I could play. But 2, I just started my day like this. I don't want to start my day all pissed off and mad. So, just whatever. Just if you see that, just whatever. Let people live in their own world. If you want to tell the marshal so that they can go address it themselves as the course, then yeah, do that. But just keep yourself out of it. Hang back and focus on what you're doing and enjoy what you're doing. But let's get into the John Deere Classic, because like I said, it's an important one now. I think it has been for a while. We're heading out to Illinois, to Silvis, Illinois. I just had to look up because I forgot where it was. Silvis, Illinois. It is a par 71, 7,200 yard course. So like I said, it's not going to be anything too outrageous. Of kind of a setup for these guys. So I I do expect some scoring. Part of why one of my key stats this week is going to be opportunities gained. The scores are going to be fairly low, so you're going to have to be able to put yourself in position to get there. And as always, I'm going to have strokes gained approach, strokes gained putting, strokes gained off the tee. And then, like I said, opportunities gained. And then I'm going to do par 4s 400 to 450 because it's just the bulk of the course. I think that, I said that I do want to talk about some of the ownership and some of the salaries this week because, like I said, I think there's some there's some value and there's some advantages in playing these. I don't want to call it I don't mean this in a bad way. These middling tournaments are literally meant to be a warm up tournament for one of those major championships. So it's just a tournament where guys can get after it. But let's take a look at some ownerships here because I expect the favorites are actually going to be fairly high owned. So Jordan Spieth, one of the favorites, actually is very low owned. Actually, it's 6.1%. I want to look at that more. Look, I know his. Let's see. I know his recent results really aren't fantastic. But if we look at, I mean, he obviously had a good U.S. Open. He just couldn't putt worth shit. But everything else, he was doing all of the other metrics. He was doing well at the U.S. Open. He hasn't. The thing is, he just hasn't had the results. He's actually been playing somewhat decent golf, just not getting the finishes. I want to look at that. Let's look at his actual finishes real fast here in Jordan Spieth. So he didn't play the Rocket Mortgage, but at the Travelers, he was T63, T41 at the U.S. Open. But like I said, that's because he just wasn't putting the ball. Missed the cut at the Memorial, and then T37 at the Charles Schwab. So yeah, not the greatest. Not it's not something that is going to get you up in the morning as far as wanting to pay his $10,500 salary. Who now with Patrick Cantlay out of the field, he is the most expensive play on the sheet, but. considering he's only 6% owned, and the next everyone else in the tens and the 9,000s are, well, just about all the 9,000s are, above 13% owned with a couple of exceptions. Guys like Jason Day and Cameron Davis are, priced in the 9,000s, but very low owned, under 4%. I'm fine with that because they're just, I don't want to play them anyways. But everyone else is very high owned. So if you're looking to play GPPs, if you're playing the bigger tournaments, to pay the money for Jordan Spieth might be all right. It might be a little surprise edge for you for a guy who could go out there and show up, because he's still a phenomenal golfer who can turn it on when he needs to. Let's see, like I mentioned, Straka, Sungjae Im, Aaron Rye, Maverick McNeely, Davis Thompson, and Denny McCarthy. They're all priced in 10 and 9,000 range. They're all over 15% projected ownership. Keith Mitchell and JT Poston looks like they're projected around 13%. They're in the lower 9Ks. I don't mind those ownership plays, but there's other plays that I like more. But I just want to keep looking at some ownership real fast, even for guys that I'm not playing. Just want to see if anything stands out. Nick Dunlap, 12%. I wouldn't mind that for that ownership. Anything under 13 right now. Let's take a look at that real fast, actually. Oh no, I'm sorry, opposite. He's had T6 at the Rocket Mortgage, T48 at the Travelers. I was thinking the Travelers, but yeah, so he's coming off of a great finish. Around 8 to 10% ownership at 8,500. Like that could be someone that you end up landing on at the end of your lineup construction. So keep Eric Cole in mind. Like I said, he's not someone who's in my emergency 9, my top 9 rankings. But Eric Cole at that ownership advantage is something that I am a little more interested in now. Let's look at some other good ownership plays here. Zach is around 14% projected ownership. Andrew Novak is someone that Novak to actually probably be around 15-16% owned in those GPPs on DraftKings at 7,500. So that might be, when you consider the price and the ownership, I'd probably be staying away from that. But how someone like JJ Spawn for under 3% ownership at 7,400, I'd much rather play that than Andrew Novak. Neil Shipley, just because we talked about him earlier, he's priced at 7,500 and projected at around 11% ownership. So, hell, I'd actually probably play Neil Shipley over Andrew Novak just based off of ownership advantages when it comes to DraftKings. So keep an eye on that. Let's see some other popular names in this range. Joel Dahman at 7,300, up to around 12-13% projected ownership. I don't think Dahman's necessarily it's, you know what, Joel's actually on a little bit of a run here. I stand corrected. T25 at the Rocket Mortgage last week, T10 at the RBC Canadian. He did not play the Travelers, the US Open, or the Memorial, and then T56 at the Charles Schwab. So he's made a few cuts in a row in appearances. In the top 25 at the Rocket Mortgage last week, Joel Dahman at 7,300 might be worth that little spike of 12-13% projected ownership. So don't mind a little Joel Dahman. And let's see, who down here? Troy Merritt at 6,800, almost 10% projected ownership. That's not where I'm going. I'm gonna let other people pay that ownership price for what I think you're gonna get out of Troy Merritt. So I'm gonna stay away from that one. And then really no one else down here is really owned. Yeah, so that's Troy Merritt is someone it seems like a lot of people are landing on to save some money and probably afford a couple of those higher price guys. But this the way I approach it is that if I'm gonna pay, 10-4 and 10-3 for Sep Straka and Sung JM and have them both be around 20% projected ownership, and then in order to do that, I'm gonna pay 6,800 for Troy Merritt, but he's also around 10% ownership, then that does nothing for me. Troy Merritt being that low price, there's no advantage to me playing him at that point because everyone else is also I own that I just paid a lot of money for who should do good. I'm all those there right now that do nothing. So that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If you're telling me you're including through like, okay, I get that, but still I'm not playing Troy Merritt regardless. So um that one doesn't make sense to me. I'm gonna stay away from but you know what, the Joel Dahman is someone who I didn't have in my emergency. I know kind of sneakily light this week. So Joel Dahman there, keep an eye on him. I'm gonna be keeping an eye on him this weekend. I mean, I'm always cheering for the guy, anyways. Obviously, he's a crowd favorite from Full Swing, but I just also just like the guy. I think he's a lot better golfer than he shows most of the time. I just think he's kind of searching for that life golf balance, and he's figuring that part out. And but I like to see him succeed because I think he does have the game to really be something special on the tour. So with that said, let's actually take another quick break. We'll hear from Underdog, and then when we come back, we will get into my emergency 9, and we'll break down some of the more specifics with those guys as we move forward, ready for the John Deere Classic.
Fantasy Sports Corp and Underdog Fantasy have teamed up to start your fantasy season off in the win column with Best Ball. What is Best Ball? It's quite simply the easiest way to win. No team management, no trades, no waivers. It's their biggest contest ever, and it has only gotten bigger. You simply have to sit and win. You don't even have to set your lineup. Always get your best score every week. Just enter a contest, draft your team, and Underdog will do the rest. What could make this even better? How about free money, up to $100 using our exclusive promo code? Go online now and use the promo code DIVPIV to double your deposit up to $100. You tell them Gingerbread sent you. Good girl.
And real fast, before we get to the emergency 9, a story that I actually meant to touch on earlier that I completely forgot to write down, and which is why I forgot to talk about it, because that's just how my brain works. I completely forgot to mention Miles Russell, the 15-year-old phenom, made his PGA Tour debut at the Rocket Mortgage this past week. And he played, remarkably. I don't want to say remarkably well, thinking that he couldn't do it, but I mean, he's a 15-year-old playing in a professional golf tournament on the PGA Tour level for the first time. You'd expect there to be some stars in the eyes, some nerves for sure. But hell, he went out there and shot a 2 over 74 to open up his round. No, I'm sorry. He finished with a 2 over 74, and he played overall fairly well. He then followed with rounds of 70 and 60. Oh no, that's from the early tournament. So yeah, Miles Russell though showed up pretty fairly well in his first tour. And I remember checking in on him after Thursday, seeing the 2 over, and being surprised, checking the cut, obviously because the Rocket Mortgage cut was a little bit lower. I feel where it ended up in the end, but he still ended up missing the cut. But he almost, I remember he almost looking at it on Friday, he was almost able to kind of round it out and get back to even. So Miles Russell, watch out for Miles Russell. We'll see what kind of path his career takes, but just another good story you'd just like to hear about. So Miles Russell, keep on coming. We'll see what you do as you grow with the tour here. But let's get into some of my favorite plays, and it's the emergency 9 time. So yes, the emergency 9. So my top 9 ranked players. Now this has nothing to do with salary on DraftKings. This has nothing to do with outright winners. This is simply, well, I mean, I guess it does somewhat have to do with outright winners. This is literally just my top 9 ranked golfers that I think have a best chance to just play well to win. If these are something that you could definitely use if you are drafting and playing over on Underdog Fantasy, or it's a snake style draft, or even on DraftKings where they have snake style draft tournaments now. These are the rankings that I think you could use for that to find some value in the average draft position of some of these guys. So it allows you to get aggressive with some names, knowing that you'll be able to fall back and get guys who I believe have a good shot of finishing near the top of the leaderboard. But let's get into that. Let's get into, because we have some names that we haven't necessarily heard before coming out of my mouth for sure. Maybe if Bud was here, he'd be able to give us their the hospital they were born in, and what year their parents had them. So I don't have that type of information. Bud is a wealth of knowledge. I am the comic relief, so you'll have to deal with me trying to say some of these names. But let's get into number 9 here. We got Mac Meisner, I think it is Mac Meisner, $7,000 on DraftKings. He ranks out first in par fours, 400 to 450 this week. Top 10 in opportunities gained, top 20 in strokes gained off the tee. So someone who definitely, I can tell you right now, is going to be a name that I don't think a lot of people know. Let's take a look at what he's done recently. He's got I did not spell his name right. That would be why. He missed the cut at the Rocket Mortgage. He missed the cut at the U.S. Open, T57 at the RBC Canadian, and T5 at the Charles Schwab. So he's played in a handful of tournaments here recently. A mixed bag of results. So keep that in mind. But for this week specifically, Mac Meisner, who looks like his first name is actually McClure. I'm not sure why this is showing us 2 different names. So if I had the wrong one, I apologize. If you're watching Mac or McClure. But yeah, so $7,000 on DraftKings. He's my number 9 ranked guy. Number 8. Oh, sorry. Let's get what his ownership is. Yeah, under 3% ownership for a guy like Mac Meisner. So keep that in mind as a long shot. And it looks like perfect timing here, as mentioned, the possible special guests coming in from the Millie Goats podcast. I'm just literally getting into my favorite picks. I'm talking some ownership, talking some value. So perfect timing, dude. Welcome. Thank you for jumping on.
Yes, dude. Yes. Just got back from a walk.
Nice.
Trying to figure out which kind of contests I'm entering. I stink at the birdie fests. Well, I wouldn't say stink. They just are not. I don't know. How do you do in these things? I catch some, but most of them are not that great.
So I typically, honestly, now, and I'm usually pretty open about it, I usually just do like a one lineup kind of thing. I'm not like entering a ton of different ones. So sometimes I do the birdie, sometimes it's the Millie Maker, depending on the tournament. I'm just a one and done, shoot from the hip kind of player, because I just do it to kind of see if I can catch lightning in a bottle. Like I used to sit there and hand, because I know you still hand build old fashioned.
Oh yeah, baby.
I know that. I used to, when I had a job where I was able to sit in a showroom all day and have nothing to do, like that's what I did. I just hand built 100 lineups and 10 cents, 25-cent lineups, whatever. But yeah, so nowadays I just shoot from the hip with one lineup and see what it does. So I think that would be fun to just catch lightning in a bottle and know I just happened to put the right 6 guys together just once,
Yes, absolutely.
But before we move forward, since we have you on, how did you do with the Rocket Mortgage? Were you in there sweating the Aaron Ryan, the Akshay plays?
I
like
did play
everyone else was?
I did play a lot of them, but I also played a lot of Matt Wallace, who stunk.
Okay.
So, but again, those birdie fests, dude, like getting somebody that shoots like 5 or 6 under after they make the cut, like they end at 5 or 6 under, does you nothing. So you have to have like top 20s throughout to get all the birdie points, to get the bogey frees, to get all this nonsense.
Oh, that's what you were saying earlier. You were saying birdie fest is like the. I see. I thought you were saying the birdie contest, because there's that contest.
Oh no.
The birdie on DraftKings. I thought that's what you were saying.
Yeah, the courses where they can go and the winner is anywhere from 18 to 26 under, and it's like, who was Aaron? Well, I mean, we were kind of on. I was on with the Plus Money guys last week, and we were talking about Aaron Rye, and then I think they mentioned Batia. I don't know, and then Cam Davis. He'd won this thing before, but these are just basically driver wedge, can you putt? I mean,
Right.
and it's, I haven't had much success in the past or the present with Birdie Fest, like Rocket Mortgage, the John Deere, what's the one? I don't remember, but a
There's a
couple of them.
few.
But
Yeah, there's a handful of them that just go crazy. It's usually early on in the season too.
so, but what I've been doing is doing my 20 maxes, and
Okay.
that is in football, in golf, like those have been the most lucrative for me. I mean,
Hmm.
it's been a good year. So
That's
I've been,
good.
that one, what was it? Was it the major, the U.S. Open, where I won like the $1,600. I finished
Oh,
like
sure.
8th, I think, out of
That's right. I remember you going back and sending me all the screenshots all weekend with that one.
the
Yeah, that
majors,
was a
dude.
fun one. I was starting to sweat it for you basically.
Dude, it was Ludwig Oberg or whatever his name. Anyways, but so
Yes, it was a
I
bit.
contemplated that desert. What is it? The championship in the desert, whatever. I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
do I try to qualify for that because I had that winning. And I'm like, and then I talked myself out of it. I was like, dude, I
Mhm.
can't. The whole point of this, I'm not good at Birdie Fest. Is like, I'm not going to put in a whole bunch of money to contests that I know I'm not that good at. So I think I'm going to hold off and try to like qualify for the championship desert, either at the Scottish or the Open Championship.
Sure. That makes sense. Something that's a little bit more in your wheelhouse as far as the style of play. Did you have
Hmm.
any other any like prop bets or anything like that last week, or was it all just DFS?
No, it was all DFS.
Yeah, that's what I thought. You were strictly mainly DFS mostly.
Dude, I don't know how you guys keep up with all that, the prop betting and then the three ball and the this or the guys who play, head to head. Like I'm like
See, when
building
I
all
do
the.
it, I usually stick. When I do it, I usually stick to like top 20. Like I usually bet like a
Yeah.
top 20 finish because that's where like at least the way that my research comes out, the way I run my model.
Mhm.
I was just saying like the way I put together my emergency 9 rankings is like it's not meant to be like these are the guys that are going to be the best on DraftKings necessarily because it
True.
doesn't factor in salary or like a lot of the times half my rankings are the guys who are priced 10,000 and above on DraftKings. So that in that sense, it's going to be useless for you. But it's more meant to be like these are the guys that I think have the best chance of pretty much finishing top 20. Like these 9 guys, I think have a very good chance of, either hitting their value at the top or coming from the back of the field to get to finish top 20. So that's why I tend to stick to those types of bets when I do bet.
Have you been doing pretty well? I would assume so, right?
I haven't really bet enough to
Okay.
to be doing well. I'd say I'm maybe a little bit better than even right now. But I
Okay.
just
Well, that's
have
good.
I don't throw a ton. I throw a couple bucks here and there and see what happens. So no, I won't sit
Certainly.
here and try to pretend like I'm throwing hundreds at every single week
No,
and coming
dude.
out like $6,000 on top.
Yeah.
I won't try to pretend to be that. But yeah, I mean, I was just literally had only said my number 9 ranking to this point, which was Mac Meisner, which I'm
Oh,
honestly not sure if I'm saying his name right. I saw on one
it,
page here on Fantasy National, it's Mac, and then on another page it's McClure. So I don't even know what his first name is for real.
yeah, I thought it was Mac, but I did. He was I did a little deep dive on him a couple weeks ago. It was one of my guys, which he didn't deliver, but
Sure.
of course he didn't. That was the U.S. Open. That was a disaster. But up until that
Oh
point,
yeah.
he's been playing pretty well, and I can't remember what his stats were, but I'm sure you know him. Like he
Yeah.
was really good at was it long approach or something that he was just really good at?
So the ones I got him ranking out very good. He's number 1 on par fours 400 or 450, which is the
There you
majority of
go.
his course this week. He's number 9 in opportunities gained, which when it comes to Birdie Fest, like you mentioned, opportunities gained is typically a stat that I got to include in there because
Mm,
if you're going to compete in a Birdie Fest, you have to put yourself in opportunities. And then strokes gained approach, he's also 19th, so he's top 20. I'm sorry, not approach, off the tee. Off the tee,
okay.
he's top 20 at 19. So I mean, those 3 stats alone right there, getting off the tee, putting yourself in position, and then succeeding on those par fours, that's enough for me. Now, he does rank out middle of the field for approach and putting. So, I mean, the putting can obviously be the reason he strays here.
Right.
But like you mentioned before the U.S. Open, where to go? I just had it in front of me. Yeah, before the U.S. Open, T57 at the RBC Canadian and a T5 at Charles Schwab. So,
And a
um,
13th at the Myrtle Beach. Like he can do it.
yep. Yeah, that's the one. That one's off my screen right now. But yeah, and then he obviously just missed the cut at the U.S. Open, and then he did miss the cut last week at Rocket Mortgage. So, I don't love the coming in off of a missed cut, but like I said earlier on in the show, this is just one of those weeks, one of those tournaments, one of those fields that someone can come up from somewhere. Like no one's really out of it this week. Like I was talking about Neil Shipley, I was talking about Joel Dahman because they're guys who were down there in the 7,000 price range that rank out pretty damn well and are actually in very good form. Like I didn't realize how many that Joel Dahman's made more cuts than he's missed, in the last few months, and that he's actually playing fairly well, and nobody's talking about him. He was very low ownership. Dahman was sitting at Dahman was at like 12% ownership, so a little bit higher. But Shipley,
but he's still.
Yeah, Shipley was at like 11%. So, but still, those are guys that I was comparing to in the same price range. Everyone's on Andrew Novak this week, and he's going to be around 15-16% ownership. I'd much rather pay for Shipley or Dahman at basically the same price.
100%, or even Lee Hodges right there. I know he missed the cut last week, but Lee Hodges has been 12, 45th, 31st in the missed cut last week. But
there's
Lee Hodges. Lee Hodges has been playing some good golf.
Yeah, and he's under 8% projected ownership, so definitely. And I want to get your opinion here too, because I know you play the GPPs as well. I was saying how I saw that I always like to just scan the 6K range to see where ownership spikes are, because you can tell when who people are trying to spend money on up top, basically.
Right.
And Troy Merritt this week is the guy that stuck out at around 10% projected ownership at 6,800. But there's nothing that I'm looking at that says Troy Merritt's going to succeed. It's a situation where I was saying if I'm going to follow the wave of playing Troy Merritt and still pay premium ownership for that price range just so I can play other guys at premium ownership at the top, that does nothing for me. Do you approach that the same way, that you're shooting yourself in the foot, and now you have three guys that you're just at a disadvantage with, whether they do good or not?
You're essentially submarining your lineup at that point, because if they miss or they fail, like, it doesn't matter if you have the top guy, because if you need to gain leverage. So I would drop it down and go look at somebody like Coles, because Kraft is also a hot name in the street. But this Ben Coles guy, he's been on a heater, I would say, for a guy who's probably 66. So he's somebody that I've been looking at. But I'm like you, like whenever especially if Scotty's in the field, I look at Scotty and then I'd start building things, and then I'm like, okay, here's where everybody's falling in this little range. It's like, how can you get different?
Exactly.
But it's Troy Merritt,
and you're right.
Like, is Troy Merritt going to be a guy who gets up there and wins it? I don't know.
No, I don't think so.
You're in the 6,000s. You might as well take a shot on somebody else, because if Troy Merritt doesn't hit, but you have another guy in that range that does hit, that maybe makes a cut, Merritt doesn't, now you got a little bit of steam, buddy.
Yeah, and I think people are probably on Troy Merritt because he had a 17th last week, and he had a top 10 at the AT&T Byron Nelson. But I say that to your Ben Coles point, and you can say the same thing about him. He finished 20th at Rocket Mortgage last week, and he finished second at the AT&T. And he's only missed one cut since May. Yeah. So all of May, June, and May and June now, he's just the one cut, and he's played just about every weekend, it looks like. So, and that includes making the cut at both of the majors. So, I'm so glad you brought Ben Coles up, because now go Ben Coles, play Ben Coles.
Right. So I'm sitting there like I'm doing the same thing you are. Like, I put in a top guy, and then I go down the line, and I'm like, I build my lineups. I pick like 6 or 7 guys, and I'm like, these dudes can win it. I think they can win it. And then I go from there and start.
Correct.
I'm 20 max. Like, I'm always in a 20 max, and I start thinking, if I pick 6 or 7 guys I think can win it, that gives me 3 lineups that I can differentiate. And I try to, like you said, Troy Merritt. Okay, well, let me go down $100, not even on the same screen. Well, they're sitting Ben Coles, who's, like you said, made both the majors. What did he do? So last week at a Birdie Fest, he was a top 20.
Exactly. So it kind of lines up pretty nicely for him. What do you make of Jordan Spieth being under 7% projected ownership right now? At
I
being
think
now the highest priced guy now that Patrick Cantlay's out.
that's too high. He should be lower.
Well, what, the ownership?
Yes. Too
I know,
high.
like I
Get
know
him
he's
out.
not. I started doing a deep dive into some of his stats and whatnot. And I was looking, I said, like, the thing that's confusing is that the stats really aren't like crazy off. Like, he's definitely not playing his best golf right now, but like he once again is also in the last month. He's missed 2 cuts in the last month. He has no high result. Like, he's struggling to make top 30s right now.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you're gonna pay the top price at DraftKings for somebody, it's tough to talk yourself into it when the guy can't even make a top 30.
I mean, show me what he's done to warrant being the. And hey, if you want to play, I mean, go. Not you, but
Yeah, no, I know what
watching
you
him.
mean.
Go ahead. It's just I'd rather somebody who's hot, Sung JM, but people are probably going to be on him. So I go down even further, and I'm looking at Jason Day. I think
Yeah.
Poston and I think Poston is going to be popular with Straka, and then people are going to go down there like you're saying to Troy Merrittland, and I'm just trying to quickly, I've been all
Get
over
off
Lucas.
that.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so you put those two in, you're at 7,600, and then people will probably fall to this Thorpe Urenson guy again. So,
see, Jason
Day's
just been playing some bad golf though. Jason Day has not been playing good. He's been playing even worse than Spieth. Honestly, I'm just looking at the numbers. He's losing strokes in just about every category.
Forget Jason Day. Forget him. He's a bum.
Ever since he changed clothing lines, ever since he changed that, it hasn't really worked in his favor. I'm because everyone in the 9s and 10s is so high owned, like gonna have to have one of those guys. And part of me almost wants to say, like, maybe it's Aaron Rye with the hopes that last minute people are going to remember they got burned by him last week, not getting the win if they bet him to win. Like, you just try to kind of hope for some sort of weird anomaly like that. But even Davis Thompson, 17%, like, that's just
where's Denny McCarthy at?
16%, 9,500.
All those guys 9,000 and above. I don't think anybody's going to be taking any of the ownership. The only reason I will play a Spieth lineup because I'm making 20 lineups solely for the fact that it's a leverage play.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's when you can factor that in. But like I prefer the idea of like just kind of loading up with like 8 and 9 guys this week, just because I said this is one of those tournaments where I feel like anybody can show up.
Right.
And there's guys in my emergency 9 here. I'll quickly run through the rest of the guys in my emergency 9.
Oh yeah.
Like I said, we started with Mac Meisner. Number 8, I have JJ Spawn. I do have Andrew Novak at number 7, but like I said, this is just guys I think could do well, but at his ownership, I'm not going to play Andrew Novak most likely. Number 6, Luke Clanton. Number 5,
amateur.
Yep, I said it's just one of those. Once again, just he's at 8,600 this week. Sometimes you just gotta take a shot. Number where I say 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, Kevin Yu, 4, Davis Thompson, 4, 3, Aaron Rye, 2, Sung J.M., and 1, Sepp Straka. So like once again, these guys who are going to be outside of my play pool because of ownership or price are still going to be my emergency 9 because I do think they have the best chance of getting you a top 20. And once again, that's what I kind of am trying to do. I'm trying to hit those top 20s.
Yep. Agreed.
And JJ Spawn for that under 3% projected ownership right now. So I love that. Because JJ Spawn's one of those guys that shows up randomly, and he had 3 missed cuts in a row, but he turns around at the Rocket Mortgage last week and gets a 10th place, and he gains strokes in just about every category, 8 strokes on the field total. So like all of a sudden he decided to turn it on, and he's playing well right now, and that works for me.
Yeah, and think about it this like when you're building your lineups for these types of tournaments. Is the guys who are priced up there, the Spieths, the Strakas, the whatever. These are normally guys who are priced 7 to 8, 7 to 8.5. You know what, like
Exactly.
7.5 to 8.5. So it's not a situation where it's like they're bona fide. There are 7.5 to 8.5 golfers that just happen to be the best in this field, but they
In
still
this field,
play
yeah.
like 7.5 to 8.5 golfers.
Exactly. And it's not like we're paying up for Scotty Scheffler or Rory up there right now. Like, no, we're still
No.
paying for the same golfer.
So
But
I
DraftKings
always have
needs to make people a certain amount of money to make lineups spread out and interesting and contest fun.
right. I mean, Keith Mitchell's like the eighth highest priced guy. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I know he had a top 10 at the Canadian, but outside of that, it's been top 40 or less.
Yeah, and Keith Mitchell's usually a guy that on our show and on other DFS shows, Keith Mitchell's a guy that people are looking to kind of as like a sleeper to come out as a value. Like that, you got, like you said, you just got to remember what these guys usually play like,
Right.
what their prices
They
usually are.
they are priced and played as 7.5 to 8.5 typically, or 7.5 to 8.8. So I guess that's where I struggle. I'm like, oh, I got to plug in these top guys, and I'm looking through here, and I'm like, no. I mean, this is somewhere where you
really don't
leave
have to.
you leave salary. I mean, you leave salary on the table.
Mhm.
You look at a guy like
Oh yeah, definitely.
Eric Cole, who's top 5 last week. I mean, I don't know what his ownership projection is.
It's under 9 right now.
Patrick Rogers, like you throw a few of those guys in there that are just kind of
Yep.
middling dudes. No
Patrick
offense to
Rogers
them.
under 5% right now. Yep. But
Oh,
Patrick
dude.
Rogers two straight good weeks in a row, a 16 at the Travelers and a 31 last week. So
I'm loving some Patrick Rogers. This Sam Stevens guy, I've been playing the wheels off of him the last few weeks.
well, there he is, 9,000.
Yep.
Yeah, he's priced at 9,000. but yeah, the last 2 weeks, you're right, at top 15 both of the last weeks.
Yeah. So
and only one missed cut in the last, only one missed cut going back to March.
Yeah. So you go look and you throw Stevens in there, you throw Rogers in there, you throw a Cole in there. And then you come on down and you play a little JJ Spawn, and you can't be scared of that. Like you can't, because you're going to wind up with like $2,000 to $4,000 left on your spending.
Yeah.
And that just freaks people out, man.
Yeah,
like,
nobody likes leaving the money there, but sometimes, and you got to do it in football sometimes too. Like that's the only way, with football season coming up, when you're playing your DFS lineups, you have to sometimes. Yeah. If you go right to the zero, guess what? 50% of the other people are also doing that, which means a lot of your lineups are just gonna be closer than you think. Even though when you think how many guys are out there, it's just gonna be closer because people know the same names.
Yes, and they're the average Millie Maker winner in the NFL showdowns has left, I think, 1,100 on the table over the past.
Oh, that's even more than I thought it would have been.
So you have to take risks because you're in a giant pool, like you're in a giant field, like doing the safe thing, like it's GPP. Like if you want to play cash games and be safe, that's the way you should go.
Sure.
But in a GPP, same thing in golf. It's like you have to hit one of these dudes that that is sub 5%, and you got to find them, and you can't be afraid to play them and play maybe even multiple ones of them. So that's
I like
it. That's where I lie with all of that. But
I like that play. Yeah.
If I didn't give anything, it was maybe a little Ben Coles, huh?
Yeah, you talked me into Ben Coles, Patrick Rogers, and Sam Stevens. I'm gonna be included in my player pool.
Yeah, Patrick Rogers, and then our guy Justin Lauer.
Oh yeah. Geez, jump the lead that interview. You just had him on the show. Fantastic poll there. What a great guest he was, huh?
He was phenomenal. We're gonna have him back. I think we're gonna bring him back for our Browns preview, and then we're gonna bring Hubs back for our
nice
Broncos preview. And I'm actually talking or trying to get Novak. We're gonna the next one on our. We're trying to contact and get on come and cut it up about some football with us.
Sweet. I love that. Get guys from different sports talking different sports. I love that.
Yes.
Well, look, that's gonna wrap us up on this this Budless night. I was saying when I came on, I was off last week. Bud's off this week. I think next week we're finally gonna be back to our normal scheduled viewing of the two of us going back and forth. So, or should I say, me squeezing words in as Bud tells a fantastic story that has a lot more knowledge than I do in it. So, but if you join us, well, first of all, Millie, tell us where people can find you. I know at Millie Goats is the Twitter.
Yes.
Tell them just when can they find your show, what time, where, all that jazz.
So we go live tomorrow night. Actually, we'll be on at 9:30. We all have kids, and that's after they go to bed. So we're on Wednesdays at 9:30, Sundays at 9:30. We recap the tournaments and then do some previews, and then we preview the tournament on Wednesday, recap it on Sunday. Sometimes we have guests. We like to do interviews, but all that's there's a link in our Twitter page where you can follow all of that. So, and we like to be active on the Twitter and social medias and stuff. And I also want to throw this out. Chandler Phillips, I played him last week. That's another guy that I'm looking at, 7,100.
Chandler Phillips. All right, I'll look see what he's doing in my own time. But if you want to look that up, another name drop there for someone.
Throw that out there
for all you viewers to look at. Well, look, I thank you again for jumping on last minute with me just to keep me company. Always love having you on, and thanks for joining us. For all those who watched, who listened, every Tuesday night here on That Sports Podcast is where you can find the Divots and Pivots show. And like I said, we'll be back to our normal kind of routine next week. So in the meantime, enjoy the John Deere, which is now, as we said, more important than we ever gave it credit for. And next week we'll be heading across the pond, getting ready for the Open. So we'll see you. Thank you. And as always, stay classy, friends.